What's up, guys? This is Ray, Apple Valley Astrologer. Today is the 3rd of March, 2017. I almost feel obnoxious for even saying the date anymore because I've been obsessively doing the videos, but again, I'm an obsessive personality, so I'm just gonna go with it, and I'm on a roll. So anyway, I'm going to essentially do part 2. Not even part. It's not like it was intended to be a part 2, but do an updated version of one of my older videos that is proving the concepts of using the scientific method with validating astrology. And obviously back then I've evolved or grown quite substantially since then, and at least academia-wise and just with how I am able to absorb things. That was back when I was first exposing myself to the information, but exposing someone to the information and then them actually absorbing it and understanding it and then being able to implement it kind of in their own ideas and thoughts is totally different. The steps are not simultaneously at the same time. That was redundant. Simultaneously happening. Okay, so that being said, I have some notes here, and I have posted some whiteboard notes or whatever when I was reading some origins of medical astrology and some Greek philosopher skeptics and all that. I'm going to be referencing that as well, along with a couple of other things. So essentially, I'm not going to make this super ranty, because that's what it's going to turn into. I have my notes written down here. Let's see. So the scientific evidence of astrology. It started in 1938 with a doctor in Tokyo, Japan. His name was Takata. So the experiments essentially took on his name, the Takata Experiments. What it was is that was right around the time frame that the science field had discovered the concept of hormones, right? We obviously know that hormones have a significant influence not only in behavior but personality. So that being said, he was the one that actually demonstrated the experiments and made the methodology to take blood samples and then put it's non-biochemical biological chemicals now, but essentially what he was putting in there is to be able to remove the protein from the blood so he could examine it, right? So that's obviously something that is done with blood samples in modern medicine today, clearly. So the interesting thing is that there was a theory called the iron law. Is that right? Let's see. Let me make sure here. The ironclad law. There we go. I knew I was missing something. Ironclad law, which is essentially, I guess, either a theory or a law in science. I would like to say presumption because they seem to presume a lot, right? That every single biochemical or chemical compound that is exposed to the same environmental factors, heat, light, geographical area, air, that sort of thing, would then have the same sort of physiological reaction to any compounds that you add into it. Well, so obviously he had to use human samples for this blood thing, right, to remove protein from the blood. He was essentially trying to add on to the concept of the hormone discovery. He used women, because obviously why would you use both genders if you're going to try to do a precise, really detailed study? So he used women, and then he actually used their ovulation cycles, more or less, to have a theory that would be why it would have a variable, because when he tried to remove the protein from the blood, the reaction process of doing so was different with different samples. So he theorized that it had to do something with their periods, right? So he made sure that he synced that up, and it continued to be a variable result or a variable process. So then he continued on and looked at other different factors and everything like that. And then he even took male specimen's blood and tried to do the same thing. And his speculation that it had to do something with a woman's ovulation was completely thrown on its face, because men don't ovulate, yet the men's blood was doing similar things. Then when he continued to look for some sort of explanation for this phenomenon, he basically ran out of ideas. He couldn't figure out why. And obviously, luckily for him, he was a very good scientist and very, very relentless. I admire that. He continued to look at other factors. He did not, as far as the documents that I have gotten this information from, he did not specify what methodology or what kind of concepts or theories that he decided to, out of desperation, try to conclude this. But his conclusive evidence shows that for whatever reason, the variations for the reaction of putting the compounds in the blood to remove the protein is directly correlated to the time, date, and month of year. Not the time, but the date and the date and the month of, and the year. And it also is attributed to eclipses, magnetic storms, and sunspot activity. So, in layman's terms, for people who may not understand what I just said, he just proved that the only explanation, the only thing that actually fit the reactions and the observations that were made with this experiment of removing the protein from the blood was that planetary alignments and cosmic celestial activity, solar activity, was the direct catalyst for the variables with the blood change. And then, for all you skeptics out there, hold tight. About 10 years later, about a decade later, there was another doctor that was in Italy, in Florence for the University of Italy. He wanted to duplicate the experiments because, the scientists can never quit, right? And he not only duplicated the experiments, but he used non-biological chemical reaction, thinking that maybe the compound that Takata used would have been insufficient because it was natural. I love how they always assume that too. So he used this non-biological chemical compound. What was it called? I don't write it down. Collid. Not like I can read that, right? You have to forgive me. I know a lot, but it's because I read it. And if I don't know how to pronounce something, I make up a pronunciation on my own. It's not like anybody else is talking about this stuff, right? Not that I can find. So anyway, where was I? His observation memos noted a variation in speed of the reactions, which again correlated with celestial activity. Unusual spot activity, magnetic storms, and eclipses specifically were documented to be a foreign interference with the process. I should just read my notes, but I like being a little bit more, I like making it look like I'm not rehearsed per se, even though, granted, I have been. If you want to see me non-rehearsed, I have plenty of examples of that on YouTube, and I want to get away from that. But anyway, so then I put again another science buff, this time 2 German doctors in, I believe it was, what year was it? Did I not write it down? I think it was in the 1960s, maybe the 1950s. Maybe before World War II ended. Because, yeah. But anyway, they tried to falsify the previous conclusive evidence, but failed to do so. In fact, their conclusive evidence just validated and supported the previous 2 fucking experiments from Takata and that, what was his name? Because I'm sure somebody will ask me anyway. I know I have it. Where'd it go? Picardi. It looks exactly like that. Picardi was the scientist in Florence, Italy. So, also conclude that celestial activity, aka astrological configurations, was the origin of this variation. So I find it hilarious that the perpetuated narrative of the skeptic derived from a Greek philosopher back in the times of Aristotle, when he developed his theory of the fifth essence. I find it hilarious too, and it's even more hilarious because I can't pronounce that guy's fucking name, and I'm not even gonna try. I don't speak Grecian. I don't, even the Latin that I know, I can't say for sure that I pronounce it right, but I can read it. So he will forever go unknown yet again, unless somebody actually looks up the transcripts and knows how to pronounce that shit. But anyway, when Aristotle was essentially developing and then revealing the concepts of his fifth essence, which is essentially the concept with celestial configurations and the seasons, more or less. And then the seasons influencing the human physiological compounds, meaning your health and how you react to your environment in the seasons. That theory, which, by the way, was then an astronomer also within that time frame tried to disprove or make Aristotle's theory invalid, and he further proved it and then actually became a believer himself. And he was an astronomer that was trying to encourage and bridge the gap between the evolving science and the occult science to get everybody else back on the right fucking path with the whole concept that this shit's all the same, it's just different methodology, okay? But no. So that one skeptic, because that's the record that I have, he actually, funny enough, his name is nowhere in any records of any kind of contributions to any theories or anything like that. Nothing. Not even like, just theology or anything. Philosophy. Random fucking pulling things out of your ass like I've been doing on videos lately. Nothing. He didn't contribute anything. So the legacy of his existence, if there is any, it's very, very minimal, is that he was the fucking asshole that had to sit there and tear down somebody's ideas while somebody is radiating brilliance in their own merit with whatever passion that they subscribe to. There's that one fucking asshole that is a lazy, good-for-nothing waste of freaking atoms in space that then decides to not disagree, because disagreeing is okay, but perpetuate and make a huge fucking scene about how Aristotle is wrong without even producing or presenting some sort of counter narrative that has evidence to prove otherwise. Put up or shut up. He didn't put up or shut up. And you know what's funny? That narrative of the skeptic has been perpetuated down throughout centuries, throughout hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, definitely thousands of years. And that's what cracks me up the most. And then, another funny thing. The archetypes in astrology. They're all supposed to have not only physiological, synchronistic characteristics, meaning typical things, stereotypical things, where the stereotype actually derives from, too, the concept of a stereotype, by the way. That skeptic, that Greek philosopher, his perpetuated synchronistic archetype of the fucking asshole that can't actually do anything of brilliance for himself, but always has to stick his nose in the midst of someone trying to, present their brilliance to the world. Not because, and that's the thing too. There's no malicious intent with presenting your findings or things that are you're passionate about to the world. There's nothing wrong with that. Trying to convince people and make them do that, that's one thing. And I want to make clear that I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to resolve or eliminate the polarizing narratives and the resentment. That's how I would translate it. The just overwhelming opposition to the notion that this shit's real, especially since modern science as well as modern medicine got its fucking start from astrology and occult sciences. So it's like that little bastard child of yours, and I'm not saying every child, but you know what I'm talking about, that is ungrateful and doesn't even understand where all the shit that he has came from, and then has the audacity to try to tell the parent what's what. It's exactly what this is. So that's more or less my motive for this. And not only to further validate my own narrative that I started a while back, that I clearly wasn't necessarily prepared to argue that for sure, but I have a lot of Sagittarius energy. I'm very impatient, so, forgive me. But yeah, anyway, so let's see. And that the information, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just paraphrased everything I wrote. Oh yeah, I just paraphrased the whole thing. I'm getting really good at that. That's cool. I have to say too, because I smoke weed, which affects your short-term memory. I have read that part in one of my reference books before, and even highlighted it. And I went back and started rereading that book recently, and could have fooled me. All the highlighted spots would indicate that I read it, right? And I had no recollection of that. I was like, wow, okay. But I do have Pluto conjunct my Mercury, meaning that it's going to mutate my mind frequently. That would insinuate that the neurological transmitters are choosing different circuits and wires at random with Pluto cycles. Yeah. But which another thing is too, if you actually look at my past videos, like on YouTube, because although I was kind of an idiot in some of them, and I wasn't prepared to articulate myself appropriately with the efficient information on it. I didn't prep very well. You can actually see the phenomenon of Mercury being conjunct Pluto with my own behavior, my own cognitive processes throughout social media. I make a significant shift in my mental processes. I can feel it. Not only when every time that Mercury goes into a new sign, that's a little bit, that's like trying to prove stuff with moon transits. I'm not saying like full moons and stuff, but you know how like the moon changes signs every 2.5 days? It's kind of monotonous. But Pluto, every 45 days or so, either goes direct or retrograde. When those things happen, I usually have some sort of huge shift of perspective. Like I'll go from I'm a Democrat to I'm a Republican, or I'm, into modern Satanism, and now I'm into agnostic stuff, or I'm against reincarnation, and now I'm sitting here talking about it and writing a book about it. Those sorts of things. It's a never-ending cycle. I don't even need someone to challenge my narrative. I challenge my own plenty enough, and I don't need your help. Just kidding. But anyway, there's actually quite a few more studies with this. I figured I was just going to tackle them one at a time, because we all know that I'm going to meander, not only because I do meander, but because it is still Pisces season, unfortunately. And, yeah, so I have about 3 or 4 more other ridiculously beat-in-the-ground studies done over and over, because people can't just accept things. Which, I mean, I don't necessarily condemn people for research, or doing their own research, or actually engaging in the experiments again to make sure that they're still valid, because that's totally crucial. I mean, that's what I do all the time. It's also why I have my own interpretations that are unlike anything that any other that you can find in any astrology book. I mean, obviously, my start started from some references, but then when I understood the how they were deriving that kind of thing, I obviously want to put my own spin on it because I see things. So, anyway, that being said, I will touch base on other theories as well. But this one is the Takata Experiments. That is essentially the origin of how we have blood samples in hospitals today. And it has proven without a doubt, not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times, that there's variable differences in the hormones in the blood within the human body that are directly affected by eclipses, celestial configurations, sunspots, and magnetic storms. That would also mean, too, that Mercury retrogrades actually would be affecting your hormones as well, which totally makes sense. But yeah, because we just had that eclipse recently, everybody's going to be obviously having some sort of hormonal or protein balance change in their blood. And if the evidence of all the crazy hostility and almost seeming like it's Aries season on steroids, like squaring Mars or something the whole time, all of it. That's not possible, but I'm just trying to give you an example. If that's physiological evidence right now. It's all over my Facebook wall. Go check it out. The next one I'll do, I don't know if I'll do it today or not. Who knows? I'll do it whenever. Will be the origin of radar and radio frequencies, and how, yet again, astrology was validated with that experiments as well as the actual methods and systems that are used to track radars. Fun.
Is there someone there who cares for God-forsaken souls and God-forsaken man? Is there someone there who cares?